Hey, and welcome to our tutorial. In this video, we'll show you how to take a simple Caspio form built with the Bridge framework and turn it into a more advanced form that has headings, we have dropdowns, we have text areas, we also have conditional rules applied where you can show and hide elements based on prior input. We have multi-select checkboxes and many other useful elements. So this will be a step-by-step guide showing you exactly how to take this form from being very simple into an advanced one, and I will be going back and forth between these tabs a lot because I will use the advanced tab as a point of reference, so when I make the modification here, we can compare them side by side. So now let's go into Caspio and let's see the steps that are needed in order to turn that basic form into a much more advanced looking one. So let's go ahead and edit this simple form. Continue. Choose the fields you would like to have in your web form, click Next, and if you don't make any modifications at this point, let's say you were to click on the Finish button, your form will look exactly like that, where all the labels are on the left and you have a single column form. Now let's see how we can make a few changes in the beginning to make the form look a little bit more professional. So let's come back here, and the first thing that I like to do is to put my fields side by side because I'm a big fan of having multiple columns. I'd like to make more space on my website for other content. So what I will do is figure out what fields can go side by side. In this case, I want the first and last name fields to be side by side. I will click on the Advanced tab, say Continue Next Element on the same line, and you will see this little comma here for reference letting you know that the next field or next element will be on the same row as the first name. I also want to remove the label and add my label as a placeholder. So we'll just say first name. Let's make the same modification for last name. We'll say no label and just add the placeholder text last name. Now, if you're curious to see what that looks like, you can click on the preview button and you will now see both the first name and last name side by side, which looks exactly like what we have in the advanced form. Let's continue making our changes. Let's go down to gender. In the standard tab, I will turn this into a dropdown. And by the way, you can also make all of your fields required if you'd like, or keep them optional if you wish. For my first selection in the dropdown, I would like to say select gender. Make sure you delete the value. You don't want this to be stored in your table. Add all of your gender options. I will simply just say male and female. And then go into the advanced tab, say no label. Continue next element on the same line, and for date of birth, I will just say DOB, which stands for date of birth, and I will say no label. Now if we click on preview, you will see we have the two fields underneath the first and last name also side by side. However, my gender field is not the same width as my first name field, and I want to align those fields perfectly. So I will go back to the data page wizard, I will select my gender field, going to the standard tab, and just change the field width from auto to pixels and go ahead and adjust your pixels until you get the exact width that you're looking for. I'm going to put 228, click preview, and you will see how it aligns exactly with the field above. Let's continue making a few more changes to our fields. We have phone number, advanced tab, continue next element on the same line, no label, and we will just simply say phone. And then for the email field, I'll add my placeholder, say no label, click preview, and now you have 6 fields that are side by side. And for the final field in that top section, if you look at my advanced tab, I want to create a text area for the address field. So let's go back to our Caspio account, select the address field. Inside the standard tab, we will choose text area, change the pixel width to be 485, and I want only 2 rows because I don't know if the address is going to exceed more than 2 rows. Maybe if it's an international address, if that's the case, you can add additional rows if you'd like. Inside my advanced tab, I will simply just say address for my placeholder and I will remove the label. Click preview again, and you can see my top section looks exactly like what I have in my advanced tab. Let's go back here and let's make a few more modifications to our form. So next thing that I want to do is add a heading that's above my form that's going to be displaying information that says patient info. So what you need to do is you need to add what's called an HTML block. And inside that HTML block, you can keep things simple if you want. Let's say you were to write patient information. You highlight the text and you make it bold. If you click preview now, you will see how it looks fairly simple. If you want to add some color to your form, you have to use a little bit of HTML and inline CSS. It's not overly difficult. This is super simple. You can also follow my instruction here. So let's go into the source tab. Let's remove that. And all we're going to do is type out a very simple div line that's going to include some inline CSS to dress up that heading. So we're going to say div style equals, and then we're going to put background color. And I'm going to add a light blue background color. And then we're going to put that against a darker label so it has a nice contrast. I will say E6 F2FF, and that's going to be a hex code for a light blue. Semicolon, let's add a color for our label, and we're going to use a dark blue, 003366. And then let's go ahead and put a font weight to be bold, so it also stands out. We'll add some padding around our text to be 8 pixels. Let's also add a border radius to be maybe 6 pixels, so we add a nice round edge around the background. And then margin will be maybe 10 pixels top and bottom with 0 pixels left and right. And that's really all the changes I want to make. And then we'll add patient information as our heading, and we simply just close the div tag. Now, if you click on the source button again, you can see what that's going to look like when it's completed. If you wish to modify the code again, you can go into the source, and here you can make modifications once again. If you do click on the preview button, now you can see that heading above the form. And all you're going to do is repeat that same exact code for other sections of your form. So if you look at my advanced tab, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 headings throughout the form. Let's go and add them very quickly. So I will highlight my text. Underneath my address field, I have health insurance information. So I will add an HTML block. Click on the source button and paste that code. And for this, we're going to just simply say insurance details. So let's go ahead and change the heading to insurance details. Let's add another HTML block above lifestyle decisions. So if you look here, you can see lifestyle information. So let's go back to Caspio and let's add another HTML block. We're going to go ahead and paste our code, and we're going to call this lifestyle information. Let's have another HTML block up here underneath. How often do you smoke? Because this also belongs to that section. So I will add another HTML block. I believe this is going to be medical information. Let me take a look at my advanced form. Okay, so it's called medical background. Let's rename the heading to read medical background. And we're almost done. We're going to add, I believe, 1 or 2 more. So we have 2 more. So in this HTML block, we're going to paste our code and simply just say emergency contact information. Let me make sure that's what we called it. Doesn't have to be exactly the same. It's called emergency contact. So let's just rename that without having information. And last but not least, let's add 1 more HTML block above the appointment. So here we're going to paste our code, and let me see what I called it. Appointment information. So simply just rename your heading to appointment information. And now when you click preview, you will see how your entire form is sectioned off. And now you can see clearly as the app user, when you're filling out the form, you can see what section you're on, and you just have to now make modifications to your fields. And already you can see how quickly we are able to go from what used to look very simple to something that's going to look a little bit more advanced. So let's continue working on our form. We're going to go ahead and tackle the insurance details next, which is this section. And there are quite a few fields here that we're going to use conditional logic to show and hide. I realized just now that we don't actually have a need for this field because it should be a total of 4 fields. So I will go ahead and remove that from the insurance section. This one here does not belong inside the form. That's an extra field. All right, so these are my 4 fields. Do you have health insurance? So this is going to be a yes or no drop-down type question where we can say health insurance with a question mark, delete the value, and simply just say yes or no. Now for the field width, I also want this to be 228 pixels so it fits and aligns exactly like the fields above. I am going to go to my Advanced tab and simply say no label and continue next element on the same line, which is the insurance provider. And for this field is also going to be a drop-down. And you can list down, for example, select provider, list down all the available providers that somebody can list. So for example, maybe Kaiser, maybe you have Blue Shield, maybe Medicare. So list down any provider here for insurance. Next, we're going to go to insurance policy number. And for this field, we also want to go to the Advanced tab and simply just say policy number, no label. Continue next element on the same line. And then primary care physician. For this one here, you can also make this a text field if you want them to type in the primary physician's name or turn that into a drop-down. That's completely up to you. I will just say no label and leave that as a text field. And we'll just say primary physician. And let's see a preview. So we have our 4 fields. The one thing I forgot to do is remove the label for insurance provider. So let's go to insurance provider and just simply say no label. Click preview again. And here we have our fields. This dropdown also needs to be 228 pixels. So let's go to it and change the field width to 228 pixels. Click preview. And now everything looks perfect. The only thing that we need to change here now is to show and hide these fields based on what we provide in the very first field. And to do that, we're going to go into rules and simply just say for rule number 1, criteria is going to be set on the insurance question field. Do you have health insurance? And if it does not equal to yes, we want to hide the other 3 fields. So we're going to find them and hide insurance provider. We'll go ahead and hide insurance policy number, and we're also going to hide the primary physician. Now when you hit preview, you can see how all the fields are hidden. However, if you say no, again, still hidden because you don't have insurance. But if you do say yes, we make all of the other fields visible. You could also set additional rules here to make these fields required if it's set to yes. So there is quite a bit of versatility here on how you can customize and modify each one of your forms. So now let's go to this section for lifestyle information. And again, we're going to put all of these fields to be side by side and answer a simple question. If you drink alcohol, you say yes. How often? If you smoke, if you say yes, how often? So that's also going to have some conditional logic. So let's come back to our form, click on the Elements tab, and let's move on to lifestyle information. So do you drink alcohol? So this is going to be a drop-down. You could also make this a radio button if you'd like, but we'll stick with drop-downs just to keep things consistent. And we'll say, do you drink alcohol? Question mark, delete the value, and simply just put yes or no. Or you can also do things like prefer not to answer. For the field width, we can just say 228 pixels. Let's go into the Advanced tab and say no label, and then continue next element on the same line. How often do you consume alcohol? So this is also going to be a drop-down, or you can leave it as a text field. It's up to you how you design these fields. So we'll say pixels 228. And for your options, you can say maybe never, maybe you say occasionally, maybe you have other choices. For example, 1 to 3 drinks a week. Maybe you can say 4 to 7 drinks per week. It's up to you how you design these other drop-downs and what information you want to list as your options and values. Next, let's go to the Advanced tab and simply just say no label. Go back to my Standard tab and just add one more option. How often? Question mark. We'll move this to the very top because we still want the user to be able to see the first option in that drop-down. Next is, do you smoke? So again, we'll turn this into a dropdown. We'll say custom values and say, do you smoke? Say yes, no, prefer not to answer. The width is going to be 228 pixels, and in the advanced tab, we'll say no label, continue next element on the same line. And once again, list down the options. How often do you smoke? So one, we're going to go into and create this to be a dropdown. We're going to say how often, delete the value, never, 1 to 2 cigarettes per week, or maybe 3 to 7 cigarettes per week, and just continue adding your other options if you'd like. In the advanced tab, we'll say no label, and let's take a look and see what we have so far. All right, just need to make one adjustment to my field width here for how often on this side for smoking. So let's come back here and just change the field width to 228 pixels. Click preview. And now we have those two fields side by side, all four fields side by side. We now need to implement our conditional rules to hide these two fields unless they say yes. Okay, so let's come back here and we'll say rules. Rule number 2. The question is going to be, do you drink alcohol? So we select that. And if it does not equal to yes, we want to hide the consumption field. So we come back here and we hide how often do you drink alcohol? Rule number 3. Let's do it for smoking as well. Let's find that field. You smoke. And if it does not equal to yes, we want to hide the field that says how often do you smoke. And now when you hit preview, you can see how it's looking a lot more like our advanced form. Okay, it's getting there. We're slowly but surely making our progress. So now if I say no or prefer not to answer, nothing happens. But if I say yes, you get asked that question, how often do you consume alcohol or how often do you smoke? Let's move on to the next section, which is medical background. And here we're going to have some multi-select checkboxes that we can choose from. We also have a few more drop-downs, and then another rule that shows and hides the pregnancy status based on the gender that you select in the field up above. So let's come back to our advanced tab just to see how we set up the form. We have a drop-down, we have these two fields side by side, and we have two text areas. Back inside Caspio, under the Elements tab, for blood type, we have a drop-down, pixel width 228 pixels. Let's go into the advanced tab and simply say no label, and then you can create your custom values. Whatever blood type you want to list here, for example, O+, we have O negative, you might have AB, and all the other types that you want to list are going to be right over here. Make sure you also have the first option to say select blood type. Let's move this to the top and remove the actual value. Underneath that, we have our existing conditions, which is a multi-select checkbox. We're going to set that to be 228 pixels. And in the advanced tab, we'll say top label, because when it comes to multi-select checkboxes, there's no way to add a label as a placeholder. So I will just put the label on top, and I will just say existing conditions as my label. And let's say continue next element on the same line, which is allergies. We'll put the label on top and set the field width to 228 pixels. Now we have two more fields underneath that. This is going to be our text areas for current medications. I will just go and just type out current medications. No label, and then we'll set this to be a text area. Pixels 485, 2 rows. And then for surgical history, also a text area, pixels 485 field width with 2 rows. And in the advanced tab, we will say no label. And we'll get to pregnancy status in just a moment, but let's hit preview. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we have our existing conditions. We have allergies that we can click on and pick from multi-select checkboxes. We have current medications. And the only thing I forgot to do here is to add my allergies. So let's come back here select that field for surgical history. So this is the one. We'll just type in surgical history for that text area so that we can see what's inside as the actual label. Now in my advanced tab, you will see that if you do select gender female, underneath that you will see select pregnancy status, and then you can choose between yes, no, and prefer not to answer. So if we come back here for pregnancy status, we're going to turn this to be a drop down. Field width 228 pixels. The first option can say select pregnancy status, delete the value, and then go ahead and just say yes if you're pregnant or no, and then maybe you can have prefer not to answer option. In the advanced tab, we'll simply say no label, but we still have to create the rule. So we're going to go to the rules tab and simply say for rule 4, find that field for a gender, and if it does not equal to female, we simply just want to hide that field for pregnancy status. Okay, hit preview. All right, so let's take a look. By default, it's hidden. If you select male, it's hidden. But if you select female, you will now see that field underneath where the person can input the pregnancy status. All right, we have 2 more sections. We're going to get through these very quickly. There is nothing fancy that's going on here. We have 2 fields side by side. We have 1 drop down followed up with another text area. And then I will show you how to clean up the form a little bit so it looks exactly like the one that we have in the advanced tab. And also show you how you can change the color of the button to something that's a little bit more on brand. All right, let's go to the Elements tab. One piece of advice I can give you as you're modifying your form, every now and then go ahead and click Finish. Don't just click Preview, because let's say your computer crashes or you lose the internet, you're going to lose all of the work that you just put in. So do click Finish every now and then. That way you ensure that the form is saved. So even if your computer crashes, you didn't lose all of that prior work that you just put in. Okay, so that's one little bit of tip of advice that I can give you as you're developing your form. Now let's get to our emergency contacts. So for this one, it's very simple. We are going to say placeholder, and you can also just copy the original label from here and paste it into the placeholder. No label, continue next element on the same line. And then for emergency contact phone, you can just add it like that. Say no label, click preview. And now we have these 2 fields side by side, and we just want to finish things off with the appointment type and additional notes. So let's go down to that section. Appointment type is going to be a drop down. So in the standard tab, you select drop down, 228 pixels to keep everything uniform, and then list down whatever appointment types you might have. As you can see in my advanced form, we have select appointment type as the first option. Then we have checkup, follow-up, emergency, and other. So we'll just try to copy a few of these. Delete the value. So we had follow-up, we had checkup, we had emergency, and then we had other. These are our available appointment types. In the advanced tab, we will say no label. And finally, last but not least, we have additional notes. So we will turn this into a text area. Pixels can be 485. We'll have 2 rows, and then we will just simply say additional notes and say no label. Click preview. All right, so the form is looking very nice. It's very close to what we have here in the advanced tab, plus or minus some coloring and maybe the field size and the label size. So it's up to you how you wish to modify now the form to include the same colors. I will just show you how to go about that. So let's go ahead and click Finish to save. And what you want to do is go into your styles. This is the style I created for the original form, the one that's already advanced. I will create a brand new style. And I use the Caspian style as my default template for that form. So make sure you're using the same base style. And what you're going to do is simply apply that to the form that you created. In this case, it's my simple form. And if you do that right now, nothing is going to change. Okay, however, you can see that in my advanced form, all of my labels inside the placeholder and dropdown look the same. So what you can do here, if you look at the form that you created, I want the dropdown, if you prefer having this lighter gray color that's inside a placeholder, to be applied to your dropdown text as well. What you're going to do is go to errors and messages, find the placeholder text, and as you can see, the placeholder text has this hex code of AAA, which to me is a little bit on the light side. I prefer having a darker color, so I might do 8080 for my placeholder text, and then go to your field section, find the dropdown, and then instead of having this dark color, which is 202, it's almost full dark, you can just say 808080, and this is going to become your dropdown text. And now if you click create, let's give it a name. So this will be demo, NP my initials, styles, maybe HC for healthcare. Now when you refresh your form, the simple form that we created, let's go back to our data pages. I might be able to just refresh this one here. Let's take a look. Yeah, you can see now how all the labels look the same. And it's applied to both my dropdown and also my placeholder text. If you wish that text to be smaller, you can go back to your style, the one that we just created, which is this one here. Go to errors and messages. Right now it's set to 14 pixels, but you can change that to maybe 13 pixels, a little bit smaller. But you also have to apply the same field size to your dropdowns as well. So just change that to 13 pixels and click save. So now let's reload the form and you will see much smaller text inside your field. And to me, this is actually looking pretty clean. The only thing that's kind of bugging me a little bit is the font size that's on the label. So this is the original label color and size on the Caspian base template. I would like to change that so it doesn't pop as much because it's kind of clashing with my heading text a little bit, and I want this to stand out a bit more. So what I will do is I will edit my style once again, and you will see how the labels have this dark black color, which I'm fine with, but I'm just going to make them 13 pixels for both the default text and required text. And for type, instead of, right now I know that it's using bold, but I will just say normal for both of these, so it doesn't inherit the bold style that we have inside the actual source. You can now see that it's set to normal. And if you do that and click save, I think the form is going to look pretty clean. Now we have this label that doesn't stand out as much. It's 13 pixels and it has a normal weight, which isn't bold. Now, the final thing that I would like to show you in today's video is how to maybe go about changing the button color. It's very, very simple to do that. You're going to edit your style, go to buttons. Okay, we have the standard button and we have the hovered button. So under standard button, you can just choose whatever color you want. You can drop your own hex code here. I'm just going to show you by using this blue. And then for hovered, we're going to use a darker blue. Click save. Now when you refresh the form, you have that darker blue at the bottom, and when you hover over, it's even darker. Okay, so we went from a basic form that was just one column with all the labels on the left, and we turned it into a multi-column form that has conditional logic. We added some simple headings to our form that you can manipulate very easily by adding your own hex code if you want to change the background color of the heading and also change the color of the text. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that it was informative. For additional tips and tricks on how to build and customize web forms, you can visit our knowledge base at howto.caspio.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.